If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role. If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
Did one rising star accidentally ignite a billion-dollar dumpster fire for Disney with just a few ill-fated interviews? It sounds like pure, unadulterated internet hyperbole, the kind of sensationalism typically confined to the shadowy corners of online forums. Yet, the turbulent saga engulfing Disney's live-action Snow White remake and its chosen lead, Rachel Zegler, has transcended mere online chatter. It's morphed into a sprawling, real-world case study in modern controversy, a chaotic vortex where cherished nostalgia clashes violently with progressive ideals, where social media outrage dictates narratives, and where billion-dollar corporate strategies scramble to contain the fallout. Disney's modern strategy of mining its animated classics for live-action gold has always carried inherent risks, balancing reverence with reinvention. But what began as another seemingly straightforward, potentially lucrative adaptation spiraled rapidly into arguably the most fiercely debated, publicly messy, and reputationally damaging production in the studio's recent history. The journey from celebratory announcement to crisis management has raised profoundly uncomfortable questions about legacy, representation, the immense power of online mobs, and the terrifying volatility of 21st century fame. The financial stakes are colossal, the delays unprecedented, and the panicked whispers emanating from within the usually impenetrable walls of the Magic Kingdom grow louder by the day. Rachel Zegler didn't just enter Hollywood, she detonated onto the scene like a celestial event. Plucked from thousands in an open casting call for Steven Spielberg's ambitious West Side Story revival, she delivered a performance that wasn't just acclaimed, it was revelatory. Critics exhausted superlatives praising her soaring soprano, her magnetic screen presence, and the emotional depth she brought to the iconic role of Maria. Awards nominations followed, solidifying her status as Hollywood's newest, brightest ingenue. So, when Disney, the ultimate arbiter of mainstream stardom, announced her casting as Snow White, it felt less like a surprise and more like an inevitability, the logical, triumphant next step in a fairy tale career trajectory. The studio beamed, positioning her extraordinary talent as the key to breathing fresh life into their very first princess. But the congratulatory digital confetti had barely settled before the storm broke. Cyberspace didn't just split, it fractured violently. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite erupted almost instantaneously. A digital wildfire fueled primarily by detractors incensed that a Latina actress would portray a character whose name, they furiously argued, was an explicit, immutable descriptor of her pale skin, white as snow. This initial wave primarily centered on race and perceived fidelity to the 1937 animated classic quickly metastasized. Arguments broadened, absorbing anxieties about wokeness, historical revisionism, and the perceived sanctity of childhood memories. Mocking memes comparing Zegler to the animated character proliferated, YouTube channels dedicated entire segments to dissecting the casting choice, and comment sections became toxic battlegrounds. Before she had filmed a single scene, Rachel Zegler found herself the unwilling figurehead in a burgeoning culture war, a symbol onto which opposing factions projected their hopes and, more often, their fears. But the initial skirmishes over casting proved to be merely the opening salvo. The real detonation was yet to come, triggered by Zegler's own voice. If the casting controversy lit the fuse, Zegler's subsequent promotional interviews effectively detonated the bomb. In conversations ostensibly designed to build anticipation and charm audiences, she delivered a series of sound bites that achieved viral infamy with breathtaking speed. Discussing the beloved 1937 original, she confessed, perhaps too candidly, to finding it dated and even unsettling. She recounted a childhood visit to Walt Disney World where the Snow White's Scary Adventures ride left her teary-eyed, not enchanted, an anecdote immediately seized upon as proof she harbored disdain for the source material. The critical blow landed when she addressed the classic romance narrative. "It's no longer 1937, she declared, emphasizing that her Snow White wouldn't be passively dreaming of rescue, but actively pursuing leadership and agency. His sentiment, while perhaps aligned with modernizing the character, struck many as dismissive of the original's core appeal. Then came the quip heard, "round the world." Asked about the prince's role, Zegler chuckled, suggesting the original character, who kisses Snow White without consent while she's in a death-like sleep, could reasonably be interpreted as a stalker. She added, almost as an aside, that his scenes might even be cut entirely if they no longer served the updated narrative. These quotes, often ripped from their conversational context, amplified and distorted, became digital ammunition. They ricocheted across TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, framed by commentators as arrogant, ungrateful, and aggressively anti-romance. She was painted not just as an actress miscast, but as an activist seemingly intent on dismantling a cherished fairy tale from within, injecting unwelcome pseudo-feminism and disrespecting generations of fans. The narrative shifted decisively from debate to denunciation. Ziegler's own words, however ill-advised or misinterpreted, provided the perfect fuel for the pyre. And yet, another casting controversy was simultaneously adding more accelerant to the blaze. The seemingly secondary issue of the Seven Dwarfs suddenly erupted into a primary, explosive flashpoint, further complicating Disney's position. The catalyst was Peter Dinklage, the acclaimed actor known for his powerful performances and his vocal criticism of stereotypical portrayals of people with dwarfism. In a widely circulated interview, Dinklage lambasted the inherent contradiction he saw in Disney championing a racially progressive Snow White while simultaneously perpetuating what he called a backward story about seven dwarfs living in a cave together. His pointed critique, "Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox?" carried significant cultural weight, forcing Disney into an immediate, reactive posture. Their publicly announced solution involved consulting with members of the dwarfism community and fundamentally reimagining the seven companions not as dwarfs, but as diverse magical creatures of varying sizes, genders, and ethnicities. This attempt at navigating between Dinklage's critique and the original story's framework backfired catastrophically. Leaked photographs from the set, showcasing these reimagined companions, triggered a fresh wave of intense online mockery and outrage. Critics derided the new designs as visually jarring, politically correct to the point of absurdity, and creatively bankrupt. Simultaneously, and perhaps more woundingly for Disney, several working actors with dwarfism spoke out, expressing profound disappointment over the loss of 7 specific, potentially career-altering roles. Roles written explicitly for performers of short stature, a rarity in Hollywood. They argued that erasing the dwarfs wasn't progress, but the elimination of opportunity. The final, devastating blow to Disney's narrative came directly from the lineage of the original masterpiece. David Hand, the son of the 1937 Snow White's supervising director, gave a blistering interview to The Telegraph. He didn't mince words, labeling the remake's direction insulting and a disgrace. He accused the current Disney regime of fundamentally misunderstanding and disrespecting the work of his father and Walt Disney himself, stating unequivocally that both pioneers would be turning in their graves over the modern interpretation. His words, carrying the weight of legacy, lent significant mainstream credibility to the swirling fan discontent. With ferocious controversy now erupting from multiple distinct angles, casting, character interpretation, representation, legacy, increasingly alarming whispers began to coalesce into panicked shouts echoing from deep within the besieged Magic Kingdom. Then, the whispers solidified into a seismic shockwave. In the fall of 2023, Disney dropped a bombshell announcement. The highly anticipated Snow White was being yanked from its March 2024 release date and punted a full year, rescheduled for March 2025. The studio's official explanation cited production delays stemming from the lengthy SAG-AFTRA strike impacting visual effects and other post-production necessities. However, few industry watchers or online commentators bought the official line entirely. The rumor mill, already churning at full speed, went into hyperdrive. Unverified reports proliferated alleging disastrous internal test screenings, prompting panicked executives to order extensive and enormously expensive reshoots. Chatter intensified about the film's ballooning budget, with anonymous sources feeding narratives that positioned Snow White as potentially Disney's worst investment ever, a financial